Many tutors move so quickly from just get to summer into complete shutdown mode that we often miss the most valuable opportunity in the entire business year. The point where parents can actually see the impact tutoring has had. The confidence shifts, the reduced stress, the progress, the transformation. And yet so many of us move straight into recovery mode without really stopping to capture any evidence of the work we've actually done before the academic year closes down. Hi, I'm Jane, and if we haven't met, I'm the founder of Vireo Tuition, an online international tuition business, and the host of the Tutor Edit. This is the final episode in my summer mini-series all about how to use this point of the year intentionally so that you can start refining and reviewing your business before September begins. And today I want to talk about feedback, not just testimonials as marketing, but feedback as a genuine loop inside your business. Because one thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is that as tutors and teachers, we build in constant feedback loops into our learning constantly. They're in every lesson. We assess, we review, we reflect, we adapt, we notice patterns, we track progress. But interestingly, many of us are not applying the same systems of feedback to running our business. And we're running our business with almost no structured feedback loop around the experience that families are actually having. Now, in this series, we've talked a lot about the things that we know we need to improve on. We've had opportunities to review our customer journey, to review our marketing, to consider what should be kept human and what could potentially be automated to streamline things in September. But what we haven't really touched on is the experience that families have. We have maybe a gut feeling about how things are going, but when was the last time that we actually asked them? And that can be a really scary thing to ask for feedback. Some of us may be, quite traumatized by having feedback in lesson observations as teachers. It may be that there's some kind of emotional attachment to a request for feedback, but actually asking for feedback for your business is a really vulnerable thing, isn't it? So many of us are founders, maybe sole traders, and we feel like we're carrying everything. It feels so much more vulnerable than asking students to review a piece of work, which we ask them to do every single week in a lesson that we have. It's a really personal, relational work that we do. So I completely understand and experience this myself when asking for feedback. But it is one of the most valuable things that we can do to grow and learn and improve. Now, logically, we can understand that reviews matter. So on a logical sense, in a rational way, we know that they build trust with families. We know that word of mouth matters hugely in tutoring, and we want to be getting referrals as much as we can. And we also know that hearing another parent describe their experience can create reassurance for people who maybe are just getting to know, like, and trust us. That can create trust much more quickly than any polished marketing, than any qualifications that we have, particularly in the international market where referrals and word of mouth and network is particularly important. But emotionally, tutors can still find asking for feedback deeply uncomfortable because it does feel personal. Often that discomfort can be why tutors avoid creating a proper system around it. So we may leave it vague. It may be an occasional request. It could be informal. It could be dependent on how we're feeling that day. Or it could be dependent on parents volunteering the information to us without prompting. But a lot of the time, if we have a system behind requesting feedback, that can actually take out a lot of the emotional weight attached to it. And it is a massive missed opportunity if we're not requesting feedback on a regular basis. Not just because testimonials help us with marketing if the family give us permission to use them, but because feedback also helps us to understand our business so much more clearly. It helps us to understand what families value, what they remember, what made them feel supported, and what actually changed for their child. What was the transformation that we provided for them? And interestingly, when we've kind of put a system together for feedback in my business, it has really opened up our eyes to the kind of feedback that we have. It often isn't the things that we would expect. Sometimes the thing that you thought was just something that was part of the job was actually the thing that the parent remembers most vividly. And that can be really insightful. It can be the reassurance that you provide for them. Maybe it was the communication, the calmness, the consistency that you were able to offer, the confidence that we built. And this is why structure matters so much, because structure does remove that emotional friction. And without a process, it can feel really awkward asking testimonials every single time, because we do overthink it. We may delay it. We may worry about bothering people. We wonder whether maybe it's too sales focused. But actually, once we have a system around it, it can stop feeling like an emotionally loaded request and actually just become part of the customer journey that is very natural and very fluent, and actually takes out a lot of the mental load attached to it. Summer is a really great time to start thinking about building that structure before September begins, because actually at the end of the academic year, this is the time that parents can see the impact of tutoring much more clearly. Reports will be arriving, exams are finishing, results are coming through. If the student is taking exams, students may feel a lot more confident. Parents are maybe a little bit more reflective. And if you've supported a child through a very difficult year, then that support feels very visible at this point of the year. So this is a really great time to be getting in touch with people and asking for some feedback about your services. If you are an exam-based subject, results day is a great day to get feedback. It's one of the easiest and most natural moments that tutors have to ask for feedback. So we obviously are invested emotionally in our students. We want to know how they've done. And often parents are messaging us anyway to say thank you or ask a question. They're relieved, maybe they're emotional. They will feel grateful for the impact that we've been able to have, and they may be feeling quite reflective. And that's usually a perfect moment to ask for the testimonial, not with a huge formal request, just something very simple, very human, as we were talking about in the last episode. But it's also really important that we think about the structure of our feedback, because that request can matter hugely, but parents may sometimes need some guidance on what to say. So if we simply ask something like, oh, could you leave a testimonial, or would you mind ever so much leaving a review, then most people may not know what to say. If you guide parents through specific reflections, you can often tend to get much richer feedback and a much more insightful, useful testimonial. This is the structure that I've been using recently, and it creates a real story around their experience so that you can use it not only to reflect in your business, but also for some testimonials as well. So the first thing that I would ask would be, what specific challenges were you experiencing before tutoring. And this gives me information about why parents were looking for tutoring so that I can then use this in my messaging. The second thing that I'll ask will be, how was this affecting your child or family life? Because this gives a real understanding of how we can develop our services to really meet families where they are at the point of need and develop a much more beneficial experience for everybody. The third thing that I will ask will help me review my business. Did the support help solve the problem you were facing, so that I can get an insight into how effective our services were so that we can refine them in future? And then I will ask a follow-up of how. How did we help, so that we can be really specific about what went well and maybe things that we need to improve on. I'll then ask, what changes or results have you noticed since we worked together? And this is really helpful in us seeing the impact of our tuition. And this is really where we can get the testimonials for marketing and really think about the messaging that we may use in the future as well, so that we can sell that transformation for future families and see the impact that we've had as well. And then also, very importantly, the final question will be, is there anything that we could improve on? Because we are constantly striving for improvement, and this will then inform the work that we do over the summer period to refine and continually improve. And this gives a much more structured response to feedback rather than, would you mind writing a review? Because families help us to understand where they've began, what they were struggling with, what changed, and actually what mattered most, what was most valuable. And that information is absolutely golden. Yes, obviously for marketing, but actually for improving the business itself. Because we're no longer guessing what families value. They're actually telling us directly what impacted them, what was beneficial, and what they found useful. And actually, the thing that feels really brave, but actually does move the needle, is that final question. What could have improved the experience? Because that's the part that makes us very vulnerable. But actually, as a business, we need those feedback loops so that we can continually improve. We always ask students to reflect and improve constantly. And it's very healthy for our businesses to have the same opportunity as well. Not from a place of wanting to be perfect, but from a place of growth and wanting to really create a sustainable business that has maximum impact for everybody involved. And what we'll find is that now that we've started gathering feedback much more intentionally, it actually becomes much easier to organise it and actually use it properly, because instead of screenshots that have been lost in WhatsApps or random emails buried somewhere, we've got a folder, we've got them on a spreadsheet. We can then use that to create a testimonial bank that can then go into our content creation. It can be any of those things. It could be a Google form that you send out, anything that works for you. WhatsApp and screenshots do have an element of authenticity to them. So absolutely, we will definitely use those as well, those casual conversations that we have. But it's really nice to have a folder where everything lives, and just so that we can use it and reflect on it constantly as the year progresses. The key thing here is really to create a repeatable structure so that collecting feedback stops depending on our confidence or maybe our memory, if we're just remembering to do it, if there isn't a system that underpins it. Because quite honestly, tutors are often sitting on years of impact without actually properly capturing it. And that's a real shame. We need to have evidence so that parents can build that trust, that we can reassure them that we are the right fit for them. So I think the main thing that I want to leave you with in this episode is this. As tutors, we create feedback loops for students all the time. Are we doing it in our business as well? Is it structured? Is it something that we can work on and build on over the summer period to create a process maybe, and maybe there's an element of automation there. Maybe it's using some prompts that I've shared, but having a structure will take out that emotional and mental load from us when we do ask. And it's not just to gather testimonials for marketing purposes, but also to help us refine our business and truly understand what the experience is like for families when they work with us, because that insight is so incredibly valuable and often far more powerful than we expect it to be. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Tutor Edit, the final episode in the summer mini-series about how to use this time of year to create a reset for your business. I've really enjoyed creating these episodes for you and allowing myself to reflect on my own business and what my plan is for the summer as well, so that I can use this intentionally and make sure that we build in some rest, but also make sure that we're ready to hit the ground running in September. If you would like the guide to review your business over the summer, then you can use this QR code if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on audio, then I will link it in the show notes for you. It's been wonderful to speak to you, and I hope you have an amazing summer. If you found this useful, make sure that you like and subscribe and maybe share it with somebody else that you think would find it useful. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.